to you live from the mountains of smoke. Firekeeper recovery bringing you hope. If you're living in darkness, look for the light, cause our fire is burning to helping you fight. It's the firekeepers, the firekeepers, 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 recovery. Bumpin' BG, talk recovery. Firekeepers, fire. Welcome to Firekeeper Recovery. I'm Brant.
Bumper Smith.
And we're here today to talk a little bit about our recovery and some of the struggles we had. But before we get there, just have a check-in about the last week. And my last week was pretty uneventful, besides having a good Father's Day dinner with the family and just experiencing the camaraderie of the family and just seeing the kids and the new dads and the old dads. Is just great seeing them together.
Hell yeah. My recovery check-in, my recovery check-ins are the same like every week, and I think it says a lot about where I am in my recovery. The stability that I have, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, I'm in a good place in all areas. So when I say, it's the same old, that's such a good thing.
Yeah.
It's such a fucking blessing to be able to finally, say that on a regular basis and mean it.
Yeah.
It's solid.
Heck yeah, that's just good to hear. And when you hear it from somebody like you who does mean it, you can feel it. It's different. Like you can tell when somebody's just going through the motion or whatever. It's like, yeah, I'm all right, but they're not all right.
Yeah.
I can feel it when you say you're all right. It was a good week just being with your family. It was.
Yeah, just my routine.
The energy you got.
Work. Just hanging out with my kids. House chores. All the same old. It's so good. It's so good.
Heck yeah. It just gives us all something to work for. If you don't have it and it's obtainable, so that's part of your recovery is getting your family and your kids back. That's good to work towards.
Yeah.
You can have this kind of, because you are kind of glowing. So.
I feel like I'm glowing.
Yeah. But I guess going off that is some of the struggles in my recovery has been a lot of mental things, because maybe things aren't happening as fast as you want them to, which is something you would think after 5 years would kind of get easier. But it's because that I guess a lot of the early recovery stuff was kind of easier, because this was not my first time in recovery.
Yeah.
So it was easier to get through them early recovery times, like the triggers, and how to get back to just living a life, to where then you can start solving the big problems, and then that's when you start hitting the wall and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's been kind of the hardest part for me now, is that I've been working on the bigger things. I've kind of like worked through them, but then seeing the fruit of all of it, you're still waiting for it to grow, and that's like still,
Yeah,
that's the hard part.
What about like some of the milestones, your recovery milestones that you've reached, or some of the goals you've accomplished? I mean, do you ever struggle with feeling like it's okay to feel like you deserve the good things you've worked for? You ever go through anything like that?
Kind of, where it's like I've worked all this time, so I'm working towards it, so it should be happening.
Yeah.
Like the good karma things. But then you're like, well, I still got all this bad karma that I left behind, so I'm still, just because I'm dealing with it doesn't mean like the world has, or the energy of the world has.
Yeah, like it'll be, you'll have to face it sometime or other, whether in this life or the next.
And that's probably just what some of this is just some of that old stuff
from before.
Yeah, and it's stuff maybe I hadn't dealt with that I probably need to.
Yeah, that you didn't get to last go round, but this time around it's surfacing.
Yeah, because this time I guess where I am succeeding you don't run into them things until you are having success in your recovery.
Right, right.
They're them new hurdles that you don't know about until you get there.
It's a journey of self-discovery.
Right.
Completely and entirely. Yeah, yeah, I totally get that. The mental aspect of it, that was such a huge part of my struggles in early recovery, especially, and even up till now. Although it's kind of evolved over time. Early on, it was you know leaving the things that how my life was, being able to say, okay, well, it's nothing I can't go back in time and change it. I can't have any effect on it that way. And so what I told myself was the only way that I can think of to try to make any of it right or improve it or fix it or whatever is to learn from it and do my damnedest to never repeat it again. And I had such a strong resolve to do that. And as I had, I set short term and kind of mid range goals for myself. And with the timeline, the mental timeline, I had to understand, and I had to remind myself of this, every so often. Like, the timeline that I have in my mind is not going to match up with reality. This timeline I have in my head, that shit's imaginary. Reality is reality. And maybe I accomplished, some of these goals sooner than I expected. Great. But don't be satisfied.
Right.
Don't let that, make me want to say, oh, okay, well, I've done enough. No, you've got to look towards your next goal. And as it's evolved, the mental aspect of it, that timeline, sometimes things don't happen as soon as you want them to. And so it's easy to get, I guess frustrated and, start to get aggravated. Be like, well, this should be happening for me right now. This is how I had it planned. This is the way it should be going now. And when it isn't, it's easy to get off track and even, hard not to want to say fuck it and flip out.
Or like start pushing. Like,
Yeah, forcing things.
Yeah, forcing, and then you just fuck everything.
Yeah, there is such a thing as, losing momentum, but also like overwhelming yourself.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen, and I did my best to try to work at a pace to where I wasn't losing momentum or overwhelming, getting overwhelmed. And probably that seemed at times like I was just sitting on my ass not doing nothing.
Right.
But it was a constant mental process of like, well, am I doing enough? Am I doing too much? I had to find that tohi, that balance.
Right.
So that was a big part of it. Knowing the timeline in my mind that I had wasn't going to line up with reality. And so when it didn't, I was like, well, okay, I knew that. Okay. If things will happen when they're supposed to.
Right. Yeah, but that's kind of where I am right now. It's like I'm trying to get back to basics. Like taking a step back from doing too much and just like concentrating on what is going to be the best for my recovery right now.
Yeah.
Because maybe it wasn't the same that it was 2 months ago. It's like, damn, shit changed that quick.
Yeah.
But so that's what I'm doing. I'm concentrating on these videos and on my stuff. And everything else will happen when it happens.
Yeah.
And I'm quit and I'm just like, oh, I can do this. And like, just let whatever I'm doing happen. So that's where I'm at now.
Yeah. You got to, stop and smell the roses.
Right.
It's having a real keen knowledge of yourself to know when, okay, well, it feels like I'm kind of taking on too much, or if you feel this urgency of like, well, maybe I need to like pick up the pace a little bit, So it's good to have that self-awareness to know which is which.
Yeah, that's the hard part, because sometimes you think you're doing the right thing, but then a week later you're like, nah, I wasn't.
Yeah.
If I was interpreting everything wrong.
Yeah.
It was all there. I was just seeing things through rose-colored glasses.
What you wanted to see.
Yeah. So you got to start trusting people at their word. Is
Yeah.
what I'm learning.
Another a big hurdle for me early on in recovery, and it's it's likely that it's true for everyone in recovery. You know, a lot of things that went on in my life that I was so ashamed of and felt tremendous guilt over, and just my self-esteem was like at its lowest. I was just well, this is what I've done to myself. This is what I get. This is what I deserve. I'm a piece of shit. Look at what I've allowed to happen in my life. And to overcome that, it takes a lot of changing, your mindset. You have to. I forget. It was a video with Robert Downey and Mel Gibson. He was getting some award, but he was talking about Mel Gibson had talking about hugging the cactus. And that's like accepting all the ugly aspects and all the ugly things about yourself and maybe what you've done in the past and whatnot. And just like radical acceptance. They are what they are. It is what it is. The thing to do now is to move forward. And, you can have whatever religion you want as long as it's rooted in forgiveness.
Yeah.
Especially for yourself. Because you have to be able to forgive yourself. And that doesn't mean letting yourself off the hook or not taking any responsibility for your life or the choices you made. It's actually the opposite of that. Accountability, I've said it before, accountability, it's hard, it sucks. But what it allows you to do is it allows you to do something about it moving forward.
Right.
Which is really the direction you want to go, because if you're stagnant and you stay in one spot, nothing's going to change for the better, and life is just going to move on with or without you.
Yeah.
So you might as well start changing the way you talk to yourself in your mind. Change your negative self-talk to positive self-talk. When other people say good things about you, don't swat them down in your own mind like, nah, that's cool that they said that, but do you not really?
They don't really know.
Yeah, they don't know what a piece of shit I am. You got to stop that. I mean, and it takes practice, and it takes therapy and support groups and your peers in recovery. People that see the change, and it's their way of encouraging you.
Yeah.
And you've got to, believe them.
Yeah.
Believe them. I've never complimented somebody that was doing well in recovery. It's just to blow smoke up their ass, like.
Because that don't do them any good.
Yeah, like, well, you know how I used to be, I know how you used to be, and we're both doing great, and I don't mind telling you you're doing great. Keep it up.
Yeah. And it does feel good when it comes from another person that you crossed on that path. Because it does feel different, like like my parents say they're proud of me. That feels like a certain way. Because that's that familiar love. But like,
it's like they're supposed to be proud of you.
Yeah.
Parents, right?
They're the ones who encourage you. They're the ones, your biggest cheerleader.
Yeah.
But then when you see somebody else and you're both doing it, yeah, that is. It's like pulling each other up.
Yeah. And it ain't even got to be a lot. You just be like, hey, man.
Just glad you're here.
Yeah, you're fucking doing the damn thing, as they say.
Yeah, you're trying. Yep, that's why I like going to the support groups most days when I can, just to see and encourage them, because when you're there and you're trying,
yeah,
I want to keep pushing you to keep trying.
Yeah.
Because even if you fall, we're still going to be there when you come back.
Yeah.
To pull you back up.
No judgment or anything like that.
Yeah, if I ain't pulling my hand away, let's go.
Right. Never quit quitting.
Right.
As far, when it comes to recovery. I used to go to groups early on. I used to go to groups, still under the influence. I stayed engaged, and I wasn't taking into consideration how that might have been a trigger to other people.
Yeah.
I really wish that I would have had more consideration for other people then. But when I'm in group now, and if somebody else comes to the group and maybe it's the same situation, I don't think, well, they shouldn't be in this group. They're fucked up. They shouldn't be in here.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like, well, they're here. They're here and they're engaging, and that used to be me not too long ago.
Yeah. Maybe in a year they'll still be like you now.
Yeah. Hopefully, when somebody comes to the group, their first few times, hopefully the feeling that they get is, no matter how well I may or may not be doing in my recovery, when I go to group, I feel like I belong and that I'm welcomed and that I feel supported.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. Because if you can't find support anywhere else in the fucking world, you should be able to find it in those groups. Because we're all skins and we've all been down in the shit and know what it's like, and we try to uplift each other.
Yeah. And that's why I like our groups too, because by the end of the group, we're laughing anyway.
Yeah.
So we'll talk some dark stuff in the middle, maybe some darker stuff at the beginning, but then by the end, we're going to have a laugh and everybody's going to be like, yeah, I'm glad I came today.
Yeah. And that's the sentiment you want people to have whenever they leave, is that they were glad that they showed up.
Yeah. That's probably one of the hardest things to show about recovery, is like, that it can be fun, or that there are rewarding aspects that you don't get, that aren't the same as like money or whatever. You can't, it's untangible.
Yeah.
The greatness that you feel is, you can't put it in an amount or whatever.
Yeah, it's priceless.
Yeah.
Like recovery, it doesn't have to be boring, it doesn't have to be lonesome, it doesn't have to be any of that stuff. I mean, it can be if you let it.
Yeah.
But I mean, even that recovery in that aspect is still good, because it's still recovery. If you're a type of person that gets lonely real easy, hang out with sober folks.
Yeah.
If you're the type of person that has to always be doing something, find shit to do.
Yeah.
I used to, and I still do it to this day. Whittle. I don't even make anything when I carve wood. I'm just like
Just doing
a
something.
larger stick into a little stick, turned into toothpicks. But it's something that I, if I'm not focused and concentrating, I cut my fingers.
Yeah.
And it's also, kind of cathartic, because there's a rhythm to it, and it keeps your hands busy and your mind engaged. So.
Yep, and that's why I've been working on my writing more, because the electronic era did really affect my writing. So we was talking about that. So now I probably write on my phone, so it's like that. So it's not the same connection as just a notebook and a paper.
Yeah.
Because this still feels like a game, I guess, or something.
Yeah. I'll
Yes,
tell you, all you guys that still like touch the screen or tap spell to text,
Yeah.
you got to get with the times. You got to swipe.
Oh,
That shit's, I can't go back.
with where you see the blue line?
Yeah, you just trace through the letters that make up the word, and it texts it out for you. If the phone's not sure what you're trying to spell, it'll throw up some suggestions. Just choose from the suggestions. Every now and again, I'll have to like single tap spell stuff, but that's usually because phones don't come pre-programmed with like cuss words and shit.
They change the P word to bunny or something.
Yeah.
Wussy, I guess.
Yeah, call somebody like a duck head.
Duck.
Shift instead of shit or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, well, hell, man. I think this was a good discussion. Hope it helps anybody that's struggling. I know it's helping me.
It is me too.
So, yeah, anything you got coming up this week you want to talk about?
Nothing I can think of right off. Like that's, I don't know if that was from like years of substance use or just my age or a combination of both, but like I have to stop and sit and think for a second or two before I can remember shit like that's coming up or whatever. The invitation for if anybody wants to be on the podcast, not necessarily like an interview, but just to share part of your recovery story, we would strongly encourage you guys to do that, especially a lot of the folks in long-term recovery or even couples in recovery, talk about what things you guys did that worked for you or that didn't work for you, or what some your struggles were as individuals or together as couples. It's all valuable information.
Yeah. And yeah, you can reach me at ResLifeRecovery at Gmail if you want to send an email, or on my social media at BigNativeBG on Instagram, Twitter, and the Snapchat, I believe, and then Brant Grant on Facebook is where we put the videos at, and YouTube, Firekeeper Recovery. Like and subscribe, and also recovery rally,
14th, right?
14th July, so less than a month away. And also they're gonna have the power out there in the month.
Shit, right on.
Yeah, so be safe out there, enjoy yourself, and as always, we'll leave the light on for you. Eastern Bay, Cherokee, Firekeeper, Recovery. We them firekeepers, the firekeepers, the firekeepers, the firekeepers. Yeah, coming to you live from the mountains of smoke. Firekeeper Recovery, bringing you hope. If you're living in darkness, look for the light, cause our fire is burning and they're helping you fight. It's the firekeepers, the firekeepers, 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 recovery. Bumpin' BG, talk recovery.